Hello and welcome to Technical Utkranti, and we are starting a new series for data structures and algorithms, and I'll be releasing one video every alternate day. I'll try to keep it short and summarize the lessons learned. So let's get started. So here is our syllabus or the topics on which we would be practicing questions. It covers data structures, for example, arrays, linked lists, stacks, queues, etc., as well as algorithms like greedy algorithms, dynamic programming algorithms. And if some algorithms are missing here, we'll add it later on also. I'm sure that this series will be of immense value for myself and the viewers. And let's hope by God's grace we should be successful in our endeavors. So let's have a look at the first question. Understanding question is paramount to finding its solution, and I suggest you to pause the video and try to understand the question yourself and find the solution also. This is the example input, and this is the solution for it. Okay, now I'll start the explanation. So the question basically says in an m cross n array, and if an element is 0, then the particular row and column elements should all be 0. That's what the algorithm we have to implement. The important point is that the solution has to be in place, meaning that you should not create another solution array and then populate it with your algorithm. No, it has to be in place, means you need to do modifications in this array itself. Okay, so what usually a person would think that as soon as a zero is detected, make the column elements and row elements to zero and keep on iterating on this array. But this is an obviously incorrect approach, because for the first zero that you found, you made all the column and row elements to zero. Then in further iteration, the zero produced because of this original zero would lead to further columns and rows being set to zero. So though this approach was, like, in beginning it was correct, but its implementation, as we discussed, is not correct. So let's look at the implementation. How are we going to do that? So I've already written this code over here, and we are detecting the zeros first, and when we are done detecting, then we will be making the elements to zero. We'll not be doing them together. That is the crux of the solution. So what I'm doing is I'm calculating how many rows are there, how many columns are there. Then I'm maintaining two lists of rows and columns. These will basically store the coordinates at which the matrix element is 0. So I'm appending the row and column information over here. Then I am again iterating on all the rows and columns. Okay, and if either the row is in these rows or the column is in this particular structure, then force that element to 0. So the obvious wrong approach that we discussed was detect and force to 0 at the same time, but the correct approach would be detect all of them first, in first traversal, and then force them to 0. So that was the solution for it, and let's see if it works. See that uh, over here just this element was 0, and in the solution output this particular row and this particular column has been set to 0. Let's say I make this also as 0, then I would want this row and this row as 0, and this column and this column as 0. Let's see. Yes, I got that. Okay. Second thing which is to be remembered over here is that this R and C we are using once over here and another time over here. R and C are obtained by applying this length function on array, right? So when some calculation is being used again and again, it's always advisable to have a variable for them and then use that variable. So that will improve the time complexity of the solution. Okay, so that was the solution. Let's come back. So I'll summarize the lessons learned. Lessons learned was to break the solution into two parts. Firstly, detect all the coordinates, and once you get the coordinates, make all the rows and columns corresponding to those coordinates to zero. If a certain calculation is being used multiple times, store the result in a variable and use that variable instead of performing calculations each time to improve the time complexity. So that was the first question on the array. And yeah, please drop in your suggestion in the comment box as to how we can make this particular series more productive. Thank you. Bye bye.